Welcome to Repair Wizard. We will demonstrate by starting Word and opening a file called Moby Dick to demonstrate how to use Wizard. Click on the Wizards tab. Click on Repair. Acknowledge that this is the correct document. Now, click on Novel Manuscript for we're repairing a novel manuscript. Click Next. Now this screen tells you about how it will create a new folder in My Books. Since this is a new project, we will check this box here. And we'll enter the name of the first line of our manuscript, Moby Dick. And we'll click Proceed. Now the wizard is telling us that it's going to name the file new_mobydick.docm. We'll click OK. Now it asks us if we wish to have the novel Repair Wizard help displayed. For our purposes of this video, we're going to say no, but you can have this displayed, and it's printed from the help file. Now here are 8 questions that you must answer that are very important. For those of you who are not experts in the use of Microsoft Word, these are very important because it notifies the wizard of what mistakes you may have made in formatting your document. So in each of them you'll see a button where it says explain this feature. If you're not sure what it means, click on that and it'll give you some more information. If you're not sure of something, exit the wizard, look at your manuscript and make sure the questions are answered correctly. If you don't answer the questions correctly, the Repair Wizard will make a real mess of your document, and you don't want that, okay? Because you'll have to start all over again. Okay, we're going to assume that you're a experienced and reasonable person, and you know how to use Word properly as a word processor. So we'll click, we won't check any of these things, we're just going to click Next. Now Wizard's going to replace what's called dirty blank lines. These are lines that you hit the space bar and then you hit the enter key. Well, that puts what's called a dirty blank line in there. You can't see anything unless you try to observe it. These will cause you problems later, so we'll clean them up. Next it asks us, do we have a document that starts with a prologue or a chapter number? Ours is a chapter number. Our first chapter number, of course, is 1. The wizard will now insert a new title page as your first page. And then it asks, should I delete your old title page? Well, we've got an old title page, so we're going to delete. Here, we fill out the author information. In our case, the author's name is Henry Melville. And we fill out the title of the work, which is Moby Dick, the White Whale, and the address, phone number, and email information. Now we have to fill out information about the chapter openings. The chapter openings, if you have a chapter that begins with chapter number, like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, you would check numbers as it's done here. If you have a chapter title as we do, like the Loomings, we would set that to be text over here. Click Next. We can look at the formatting marks. I'm going to say yes. Now it's important to understand we're not done. We're really not done. We now have some new repair power tools. If you click up here, you'll see we have chapter number reformat, chapter title reformat, scene marker reformat, a new style tag, and body text reformat. Chapter number reformat is for reformatting your chapter openings. If you've used chapter titles as we have, chapter title reformat will fix those. The scene marker tag is to notify the reader that a change of location, time, or point of view character has occurred. It is displayed as 3 asterisks centered. If you use other characters, you would change them with this tool. The new styles tag is used for special graphics you may have constructed that you wish to retain. By tagging those paragraphs with this tool, you will retain them. The body text reformat is to generally change the entire body text of your manuscript to the proper format. Now let's begin by reformatting our chapter openings. The first thing we need to do is to put the cursor into the first chapter 1 opening. Go to Repair Tools, click on chapter number reformat. Now it's reformatted the first chapter number for us, and it's gone and found the word chapter further down in the document. In this case, it's the beginning of chapter 2. So what we can do is, if we answer yes, it will reformat that chapter. Occasionally, we will use the word chapter somewhere in the body text. In these cases, it's going to find that word when it goes through this step. So we would want to answer this question no, and then scroll down to the next chapter opening that needs to be reformatted and insert the cursor there and go back into the power tools to hit the chapter number reformat, and then it will continue to look for chapter numbers. For now, we're just going to click yes and yes again. Okay, all of our chapter numbers have been reformatted. Now we're going to reformat our chapter titles. Our first chapter titles is looming, so we will put the cursor into our chapter title, click on Repair Tools, click on Chapter Title Reformat, and it asks us, is it properly located? Yes, it is. Now it's gone down to chapter 2 and the chapter 2 title, and it asks us that it's found another possible chapter title. Do you wish to modify this and continue to the next one? We say yes, and finds the chapter title for chapter 3. We change that. So now all of our chapter titles have been modified. Alright, if we go up here, the next one will be scene markers. Well, we don't have any scene markers because old Herman didn't write any. We don't have any new style tags, so we won't be using that. So the next one is body text reformat. However, before you actually do body text reformat, you've got to look at to make sure that you have everything formatted correctly. If, for instance, you've got a block quotation used in your document, you want to tag that. You go up to the block quotation, you put your cursor into the block quotation paragraph and click block quotation. Or if you want an indented block quotation, you do the same here. If you've used an epigraph, either a page epigraph or a chapter epigraph, you click on this once you have your cursor in the text of the epigraph. If, for instance, you've used a heading, typically the heading is used only in a novel that it perhaps would notify the reader of a time change or perhaps a point of view change at the beginning of a chapter. Use this very sparingly, but if you have such, put your cursor into that heading and click heading. Now, at this point, everything in the manuscript should have been tagged with one sort of wizard tag or another, except for the body text. When you click Repair Body Text, it's going to change everything that's has not been tagged to body text. So let's put our cursor in the first paragraph. Click here. Click the body text, reformat it. It asks us if we've got it properly positioned. We say yes. And off it goes. Now, it is going to delete all your tab characters. We recommend that you do that. And it's going to delete all the spaces after a paragraph mark. It's also going to set the spacing either to 1 or 2. We recommend 1 space. That makes most critics less likely to criticize you. Now, if you have any spaces, it will delete all of those. Sometimes you have blank lines. You can read through this paragraph about which blank lines to do. We're going to remove all our blank lines. Alright, now the manuscript's been reformatted. Alright, so we're going to click OK here. Now we should be done. As you can see, we've got this reformatted text, and the text is using Courier. Well, Courier is a very easily readable font, but it's ugly. So if you want to change the font, you can go up here and click on this, and this will allow you to change the font. So we'll do that. We're going to put Times Roman in, and we'll leave it at 12, and we'll click OK. First chapter number is 1. Since your manuscript is fully repaired at this point, you need to go through it entirely, line by line, chapter by chapter, to ensure there are no mistakes. If you find some, manually edit those mistakes. This concludes the Repair Wizard tutorial. If you're starting from scratch, you want to open Word, click on the Wizards tab, and then click on Menu of Wizards, Authors, and then find Bookmaster. Here, the first paragraph will tell you about where the files will be saved. So let's assume that we are writing a new book and that our name is Herman Melville. The name of our new book is Moby Dick. And let's check that it's a novel, not nonfiction, and that we want to add to the desktop the Add a Chapter and Folder shortcuts. So we hit Proceed. The shortcuts Add a Chapter, Edit Chapters have been created on our desktop. Click OK. Do you wish to create a title page in the first chapter of your new book? Well, I think we will do that. Now, you can write this down. The folder has been now saved in My Documents, My Books, Moby Dick. And the chapter will be saved as Chapter 1 DOCM. Now we've entered the Novel Wizard. It's going to ask us if we want to clear off the documents. Well, it's opened up with a blank document. We want to clear that off, so we will say yes. Let's clear off other documents. Well, the document won't be closed. Do you want to save it? No, we don't need to save that. Do you want to set grammar and style settings? Generally, we want to say. Now you get to choose whether you're going to begin your novel with a prologue or Chapter 1. Ours is going to work with Chapter 1. Here we've filled in all of the information, but here you would fill in your information. We filled in Herman Melville, Moby Dick, the White Whale, and our address and email address. Here are the chapter openings and chapter titles. Okay, chapter openings, we want to choose numbers, so like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. We want the thing centered, and we want the font just normal. You can use left and italic, but I wouldn't recommend it. Here we can choose to have a chapter title. Most current novels in today's business do not use a title, so the none is correct. However, since we're copying Herman Melville, we will put a title in. Again, leave these at center and normal. Okay, this tells us where our file has been saved. Now, you can write that down, or you could go and use the shortcut that's been put on your desktop that says Edit Moby Dick. Clicking on that shortcut will take you right to the folder where your files are contained. Okay, now it says we can begin typing our chapter title and then put the enter key and then the first paragraph of our chapter. So we will do that. The first chapter is the loomings. Hit enter. Now we're at the beginning of the first paragraph of our chapter 1. Okay, we've typed in first sentence. We could go on and type some more, but let's observe what we have here so far. If you go over to the scroll bar, you can see by scrolling up that we have our title page, our name, the title of the book, the header, and the opening chapter. If you look on your desktop, you'll find two icons that look similar to the one shown on the screen. The icon on the left, Add a Chapter, if you were to click on it, double click, it will open up the Add a Chapter wizard. The icon to the right, Edit Moby Dick, will open up the folder that contains all of your files related to Moby Dick. I'll do that and show you what it would look like. Here you can see the File Explorer image and Chapter 1 DOCM in our Moby Dick folder. Open Word. Once open, go to the Wizards tab, click on Menu of Wizards, click Authors, and find the Nonfiction Proposal. Get rid of the other documents, say yes to the thing. Now, since we're going to write a nonfiction proposal for how to catch a whale, we're going to have an expert, Captain Ahab. Now, he lives next door to Herman Melville and in New York. And so his book title is Whale Hunting. Now you can see we now have a title page for our proposal, and we have a whole bunch of sections. about the concept, about the package, about the author, about the market, about the competition, about the marketing and promotion, about production details. Okay, and here is a tentative book table of contents that we have to fill in. And we have to put some sample chapters in. Okay, now let's go back to the beginning here. The sections that begin with the word about are detailed in Elizabeth Lyon's book on nonfiction proposals. You have to purchase that book in order to use this proposal wizard effectively. We'll show you a few little tricks on how to do some typical things here in the tentative table of contents and the sample chapters. Again, fill out these about things based upon Elizabeth's book. You have to do the work. So here's a tentative table of contents. Notice that it has various headings in it and suggests using words heading style. So if we go up here to the home button, you can see these heading styles here. In any event, use those headings to styles to do this, and it'll look reasonably well. I filled in the typical type of table of contents you might see for our whale story. It's pretty easy. Just fill it in and use the headings buttons up on the top. Now let's go to the sample chapters section. You want to pick some sample chapters that have the meat of your proposal in them, something with real pizzazz. Now you don't have to write the entire book, but you do have to write some sample chapters to demonstrate your writing capabilities and your story. So go to the sample chapter section, put your cursor at the end of the sample chapter's title, hit the enter key a couple of times, go to the insert, go to object, cancel that, go to the object drop down, go to text from file. Here I have 3 sample files. Now in your situation you may have different files. They don't need to be in sequence, so you could have a chapter 3, a chapter 6, a chapter 27 as your samples that you wish to submit. But in any event, we will, for our purposes, use chapter 1 as our first sample. We'll hit insert, and now you can see that we've got our first chapter inserted in the appropriate place. So next I would insert, let's say, another chapter. We'll insert chapter 3. So I'll go down to the end of chapter that I've just inserted, and you can see that my cursor is right here. So let's do this one more time. So go to insert, object, text from file, and then let's do chapter 3. Now chapter 3 is inserted. And of course it got renumbered to chapter 2, but that's just the way it goes. Alright. In any event, here is the chapters that you will need. That pretty much ends our demonstration of Nonfiction Proposal Wizard. However, it's important that you get the Elizabeth Lyon book on nonfiction proposals in order to fully get the value out of this wizard. Thank you. Open Word, click on the Wizards tab, then onto the menu of Wizards, Authors, and find Nonfiction Manuscript. Now, we recommend that if you're starting from scratch, that you, instead of clicking on Nonfiction Wizard, you click on Bookmaster. That way, Bookmaster will set up your folders for you and then take you right into Nonfiction Wizard. Okay, we're going to use the grammar settings. Now, since we're writing a nonfiction book and it's about whale hunting, we're going to use an author name of Captain Ahab. He was the one who hunted down Moby Dick, as you remember. Well, Captain Ahab is a next door neighbor to Herman Melville on 26th Street. And so we've entered his information and his email address. Now, in this particular nonfiction manuscript, we have a choice to use either parts and chapters or chapters only. So you could have a part 1 with chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and a part 2 and chapters therein. But we're just going to do chapters. Here we're going to enter the first chapter. And we'll click Proceed. And we'll say yes to this for the time being. As you can see now, we have a table of contents here, a title sheet, and the beginning of our chapter. Let me point something out to you. Up at the top here, we have like a backwards P. This is a paragraph mark. If we click on this, it's going to show us the paragraph marks, spaces, and tabs. We shouldn't have any tabs, but as you can see here, the whale hunter story, see the little dots in between? Those indicate spaces. And the backwards paragraph mark, P, is an indication of a paragraph. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the Enter key. You can see where the cursor is. And now you can see there's a new paragraph. So what we have here is an empty paragraph. Now, if we don't want to look at these things, we can turn them off like that. Off and on. It's a toggle. All right. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick that's easy to use for entering Latin text. Now what I've typed is =, lorem, parentheses, 5, 3, close parentheses. Now this is typed at the beginning of a line, and when you hit the Enter key, it will create text for you, like so. Now, as you can see, it's all Latin gibberish. So you can see what's happened here if we've just filled in with a bunch of Latin gibberish here. Okay, now I've done this on purpose. Notice that we have an empty paragraph here. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I want to begin a new chapter. Let's say that's the end of chapter 1. I go up here to the New Chapter button and click it while my cursor is in an empty paragraph. Boom. There's my chapter 2. So How to Catch Whales will be the title of my second chapter. I hit the Enter key, and again, rather than typing everything, I'm going to do the same trick we just did. And now I've got a bunch of text. Unfortunately, when you're writing a book, this would not be a very good idea to send this to the literary agent. They may get a good laugh, but they probably won't want to do business with you. All right, now let's show a few other things that you can do here. If you needed to get a new part, if you're going to begin a new part, we're just doing chapters, so it's immaterial, or a new part title, you would click one of these buttons. The new chapter I've just shown you. The chapter title, if we wanted to change something that was incorrectly formatted as, let's say, body text, you would click the chapter title. So now let's say that we wanted to, if we wanted to take a paragraph and make it a block quotation or an extract, we could do this. And change it back to body text if we want. If we wanted an indented block quotation, we could do that. Okay, now, up at the top of our manuscript, there's a thing called words. Let's click Update Word Count. And you can see now our word count has been updated. Many times, nonfiction manuscripts have their chapters broken down into various sections, and those sections have subheadings. Up here we have our headings group. If you click down, you'll see that there are 5 levels. These 5 levels are in accordance with the specifications given in the Chicago Manual of Style. You may not like them, but that's what the publishing world expects of you, to use these heading styles. The first heading level would be A, and then if there were subheadings under A, you would use B, and then subheadings under B, you would use C. All right, so let's give an example. We'll get down here into chapter 2, and let's put our cursor here and then hit the Enter key. We now have an empty paragraph. This is our first heading, A. Okay, now we'll go up to the headings button, click that. Now you can see it's centered and it's kind of bolted up a little bit. That's your first type of heading. Okay, so we wrote some words in here. Now we're going to put in a new heading. This is our second heading, and we're going to make it a B. And we'll type some stuff in here. And now we're going to put in a new heading. And we're going to use A again. Okay, so now we've got the various headings in there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go up here and update our table of contents. Now notice that we've got the How to Catch Whales, it's a second chapter, we've got the first heading, and we've got the third heading. Now what's happened here is that we don't have our heading B because we've limited the headings to 3 levels. Okay, in this case we've gone to just 2 because we don't have any parts in here. So this will make it your table of contents easier to read. Okay, now if you get down to C and D levels, they won't show up in your table of contents, but they'll still be in your document. Now if you go over here, you'll see a button for spacing, so let's click on that, and you can see there are 3 selections. Let's talk about the first selection, spacing between sentences. Some publishers want you to have a single space between the end of your sentence, between the punctuation, like the period, and the beginning of the next sentence. Some want you to have 2 spaces to make it easily readable. You can click on this and change from 1 space to 2 space, or from 2 space back to 1 space. It's fairly easy, just 1 click and it's done. Every sentence in your manuscript will be changed. Spaces after paragraphs. Well, this is just a cleanup of a bad habit that a lot of people have, is they will put a space and then hit the carriage return or hit the return key. So this causes some problems in when you get near a page boundary. Delete blank lines is for deleting some lines that you may have put in there unintentionally. Sometimes people have a tendency to hit the enter key multiple times to move down on the page. Well, what this is doing is entering blank lines in there. It's not just moving you down, it's entering blank lines. And so that can cause you difficulty later when you start doing editing. So it's best to get those cleaned out of there and just delete those blank lines. All right, this ends the Nonfiction Manuscript tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you. We encourage you to view the Repair Wizard tutorial or the Bookmaster tutorial before viewing this tutorial. This tutorial will show you the additional tools that are available in Novel Wizard. The first tool I'll show you is the New Chapter tool. I've scrolled down to the end of the 3rd chapter, so I'll put my cursor here, hit the Enter key to create an empty paragraph, and then I will go up to the New Chapter button, click on that, and you'll see it's now put in Chapter 4 and it's ready for a new title. And we'll call this is for, okay, and then we could put in some trick for typing Latin gibberish. This is a trick you can do if you just want to fill in dummy text. And there's our chapter text. All right, now the next thing I'm going to show you is a block quotation. So let's say that we had typed this and it's set as regular body text at this point. I can go up here, select it, and then change it to a block quotation. So now its font has been reduced by 1, and it's indented on both sides. If you want indented block quotation, you just click that. Or if you want to return back to body text, you can do that. A chapter may have several scenes, and a scene is determined by the point of view character, the location, or the time. So when you have a scene change, you want to give the reader an indication of that scene change. We do this by, at the end of the scene, entering an empty paragraph and clicking on the scene break. This will put a triple star in the middle, and that notifies the reader of a scene break. In novels, you generally don't have headings and subheadings. That's relevant mostly to nonfiction. However, there is an occasion where you can use a heading. The heading should only have a single purpose. You should not use it for more than one item, one type of item. Otherwise, you will confuse the reader. For instance, let's say that you had a story which is written in the first person, but you have multiple characters, all speaking in first person. So how is the reader to know? Well, one of the tricks that's sometimes used is to put a heading at the beginning of the chapter or at the beginning of the scene, but it's best at the beginning of a chapter. So we'll go to our beginning of our chapter here, the first line, and I'm going to hit the Enter key to get myself an empty paragraph. Then I will put my cursor in that empty paragraph. And let's say that this character is named John. I will click on heading A, and now you'll see that I have a bold without any indentation and a thing that says John. So I may have another chapter that has a similar thing, but it says Alice. Now, don't do too many of these things because it will confuse the reader. Another application of this is you change the location. Paris, 1964. All right, so this is some historical backstory that you're telling here. And then on the next chapter, you go to the current date, 2017, 2016. You put that in there to show that you're in the current time frame. Anyway, that's a use of the heading. The last tool I'm going to show you on this tutorial is Update Word Count. If you go up here and click on this, it counts all the words and puts it on your title page. Now, as this number gets higher and higher, it will start rounding it up. After 10,000 words, it starts rounding. Anyway, that's the end of this tutorial. Thank you for watching.
Plot Wizard, you can set outline points into the body of your manuscript. These color-coded text entries can be hidden or shown. You can create an outline before creating your manuscript, or do one as you go, or mix both methods. Scene points describe the scene. Optionally, plot points describe a plot point within a scene. To-do points are where you can place reminders to close a plot thread later in the manuscript. There's a button to create a new Word document to print your outline.
In this tutorial, I'll show you how to create a plot outline. You can do this before you write your novel, after you've completed a few chapters, or when you've got a complete first draft. During your inevitable rewrites and editing, you can use the outline to navigate to the scene you need to review or modify. For example, if you need to go to the scene where Harry met Sally, use your outline to do so easily. Create a new novel skeleton using Bookmaster. In the first line of the chapter, type Harry meets Sally. Now go to Plot Wizard and click on the scene point. Note that our scene point is blue. You can hide these plot scene points by clicking the hide button. We'll type another line and again go up and click on scene point. Next we'll put in a couple of more chapters and type in a couple of scene points in that chapter. And then go to add a chapter 3 and put scene points into that. Next, we'll view the scene outline by going to the scene outline button and clicking it. As you can see now we have chapter 1 through 3 and our various scene points there. We'll then close the outline view and return to our document. Finally, we'll create an outline document by clicking on that button. And you can see here that it's created a new document that has our 3 chapters and our points. To begin Character Wizards, go to the menu of Wizard, click on Authors, and then find Character Wizard down in the list. Once Character Wizard opens, select the title of the manuscript you wish to look at. In our case, we're going to be looking at Sample. Then click on Display Characters. There will be a new display that shows you the characters in your manuscript. Now we can click over here on the drop down button. We could look at, in this case, up to 4 characters. You can have as many characters as you want. So we're going to click View Modify. The first thing that will come up is the dialogue tags. In other words, what kind of an accent did this person have? So here we say it's a staccato type of speech. Sentence structure is clipped. He has a New England accent. That's our name, Jason Williams. And here are some of the expressions that are typical of that accent. And you might be able to put some of these dialogue things in your novel. Here's his basic bio. So he's male, blue eyes, salt and pepper, wavy hair. Now this particular thing about the bio, the basic bio, is important. If you write chapter 1 and he's got blue eyes, and then by chapter 15 he turns into having brown eyes, well, some of your readers are going to think you're a fool. So you don't want to do that. This is one place you can write down all of the basic parameters to your character. Psychology. This is where you can put down the strength, weakness, personality, and psychological influences to your character. Now I'll go back to the original screen by clicking on Select Character and then going back to New Title. Now here I could begin a new manuscript, Character Wizard, by clicking on Add Title. And you just fill out the title and fill out all of the various characteristics of the characters that you have it. But right now I want to show you how to print a printable set of tables after you've entered all your information so that you can print it out and have it by your side or when you're writing your manuscript. Now here's the basic information for our 4 characters, and puts down the BIOS kind of stuff on the first page. On the second page, we have additional characteristics of that, and the third page, and the fourth page. So you can have these 4 pages, and they should show you the things that you can look up very easily and have at hand. Anyway, that is the end of our tutorial. Open Word. Click on the Wizards tab. Click on Menu for Wizards. Click on Authors. Slide down until you see Add a Chapter. Click on Add a Chapter. Now this indicates that we should create a home folder to store all our chapter files. Well, hopefully we've already done that. Now we need to choose the file with Chapter 1, or the prologue, the very first chapter. That's the folder we need to find, and we need to find the folder, not the file. Okay, we found the folder Moby Dick in My Books, so we'll choose that. Now we find in the folder Moby Dick we have a number of files. So the only file we've actually got here is Chapter 1. So we'll check that. The next chapter we want to begin is 2. The chapter file name we're going to call it is Chapter 2. Do you want me to set grammar and style settings? Sure. The author's name is Captain Melville. Moby Dick, the White Whale is the next chapter is 2. We're going to proceed. The full title is too long, it says. Okay, so let's just call it Moby Dick. Notice we've got the title here, Chapter 2, and the author's last name. We're at the beginning of Chapter 2. We've done Add a Chapter at least once at this point, and when we do it a subsequent time, it behaves differently. We'll click on Menu, which is again Authors, Add a Chapter. Now notice that we have a different dialogue presented. It knows that the title is Moby Dick, the folder. It knows that the first chapter is stored in Chapter 1 Doc M, that the last chapter we put in was 2. The wizard will create a new skeleton and save it as a file with the following. The new chapter number will be chapter number 3, and it will have a file name of chapter 3.doc. Well, if we click Proceed, it will create this chapter. Now, if we want to work on a different chapter, or even a different novel, okay, we can go back to that first dialogue that we saw by clicking Change. Change will allow you to go find a new folder, a new manuscript, and a new chapter number. Well, let's just hit Proceed here and see what happens. And in this case, it wants us to enter the chapter title here. The third chapter. Okay, that's it. Now you know how to use Add a Chapter. Open a document that has multiple chapters that you wish to burst. Remember, this document must be formatted with wizards. Either run it through Repair Wizard or created by either Novel Wizard or Nonfiction Manuscript Wizard. A unformatted by wizards document will not work. It will just get errors. Click on Menu of Wizards, Authors, Burst a Manuscript. Now this will go through and tell you what I've just told you, that you have to have everything done correctly. Read through it and make sure that it's correct. We'll affirm that we want to burst sample novel. And this gives you an opportunity to clean up some of the mistakes that you may have put in here. So we'll say yes to that. And we'll say yes to that. And we'll say yes to that. Here is the heading or slug line, which would be at the top of your novel at the heading. So we're going to put in my sample novel. You notice now that it's going to save it in My Books, My Sample Novel. So it says, this doesn't exist. Do you want me to create it? Yes, we'll let them create it. Do you wish to burst the entire manuscript? We're going to burst the entire manuscript. If you only wanted to burst one single chapter, you want to extract a chapter, you would say no, and it would ask you which chapter. We're going to skip that for now. We're just going to burst the entire. It's burst all 4 chapters that we found in the original document. See where those files are, just click File, Open, and there are the 4 files broken out. Now we'll see how to use Joiner. Click on Menu of Wizards, Authors, and Joiner. Now this introduction tells you that the formatted files must be correct. And we'll find the proper folder that contains our chapters. This will now show us what chapters it's found in there, and these are all the chapters that we would like. If you have some other files in there that are not really chapter files, you want to uncheck those. Now this shows the order that they're going to go in. So chapter 1 will be first, chapter 2 will be second, 3, 4. However, if you wanted to change the thing, if you wanted chapter 4 to occur before chapter 2, you would move it up. Now, what will happen is that chapter 1 will remain the same. Chapter 2 will have the contents of chapter 4. Chapter 2 will become chapter 3. Chapter 3 will become chapter 4. We'll put these back in order. Now you want a name for a file. So we're going to call this Back Together. You can call it whatever you like. Now it's joining them. Now, as you can see up here, you've got a new file called Back Together Again. And it has chapter 1, chapter 2, etc. So now the files have all been joined together again. And that's the end of Burster and Joiner Wizards. Thank you.
I am the grammar wizard. Please let me be your personal writing assistant. I will enhance the built-in grammar and spelling check of the most popular word processor, Microsoft Office Word. I will check for possible grammatical style errors and word usage mistakes and bring them to your attention. My database has over 3,000 pesky phrases and words. I will look for the commonly misused and confused phrases, expressions that contain redundant words, wordy phrases, slang, and the misplaced prepositions that confuse even the best writers. I will search for unnecessary modifiers and adverbs that weaken your sentence. I can even flag those worn-out cliches. This is an example of how I display the possible problems after I'm run. Click on one of my comments, click Reveal, and I will show you why I flagged the phrase. Guidance as to the reason you need to consider editing. Click Action and I will show you some choices. You can substitute a word or phrase I suggest. Or you can ignore this comment. Or you can hide this type of comment throughout this document. Or you can have me ignore this indiscretion forever. I won't mark this indiscretion again. Grammar Wizard. So good. So easy. I am Grammar Wizard. Let me be your personal writing assistant.
Open a wizard-formatted novel or nonfiction manuscript. Do not try to do this on a document that you wrote prior to getting the product, for that will certainly not work. Once open, click on Menu for Wizards, Authors, Conversion Wizards, eBook Conversions. At this point, it's going to give you some pronouncements about which different flavors you can have here. And it tells you that you have to have it in wizard formats. Consider running Repair Wizard that will scan your document and get it cleaned up a bit. You must run eBook Wizard for each type of ebook. So if you're going to put it on Kindle and you're going to put it on Nook and you're going to put it on Smashwords for Apple, then you have to run it 3 different times because they're different formats. Now, there are 3 buttons below. One says Proceed, one says Cancel, and the other says Instruction before you start. If you fail to read it, you're wasting your time. You will end up just having a big mess, and you will not have the outcome that you wish. We're going to close it now. Okay, we're going to proceed. Now it says, what do we want? Kindle, Nook, or Smashwords? We're going to do Kindle. Kindle is the most popular. Now it tells us that our novel is the Great American Novel. If you had a second title, a third title, you could put that in. The pen name is John Doe. Now, if you have established a publishing company, which is a good idea, I mean, you just get a little thing and say it's John Doe's Publishing Company. Describe your book. This is important so that you can market this to as many readers as possible. We're going to market this as health foods. Keywords. Search engines look for keywords. You want them to be able to find your thing. So, health foods. Published by, okay. Now, if you started your own company, put something in. If not, don't put anything in. Put your address or a P.O. box. We recommend you get a P.O. box. That way, if somebody doesn't like your book, they don't show up at your house. If you have an ISBN, that has been assigned to you, and it's unique to this version being the Kindle version. You can put it in here. With a Kindle, you don't need it, okay, because Amazon will assign you what's called an Amazon identification number. So I wouldn't bother that. Now, you have to have a cover page, and you have to have the cover art. Now, if you've contracted, went to Fiverr or some other internet place and had somebody do some cover art for you, you might want to give them credit. So I'm just going to put, okay, if your work is fiction, the standard fiction disclaimer will be added. If this is run in Smashwords, it will have a Smashwords version statement. You can put some optional paragraphs here if you want. We won't do that. Again, look at the help. Each of these pages has help, and there's lots of good stuff there. Okay. One of the things that ebooks don't like is the auto-format, autocorrect changes that sometimes Word puts in there. It doesn't like smart curly quotes. And M dashes and N dashes are not liked as well. Here we can add what's called a table of contents teaser. Amazon requires that you have a table of contents. Well, for a novel, it's going to be chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, etc. And it won't tell you anything. There's no titles because most novels do not have chapter titles. However, we add a TOC teaser, which takes the first 5 words of the chapter and puts them as a teaser, so that when a reader is down in the middle of the book and he wants to go back to a chapter that he thinks he read, or he maybe put the Kindle down and forgot where he was, he can use this as a reminder of how far he got to read. Anyway, again, read the help. The help tells you all of these facts. Just in case, the wizard will now delete any hidden text, tab characters, footers and headers, any blank lines. We're going to set the spacing to 2 because I think Amazon likes 2. If you've got a cover image, you can load that. We don't have a cover image for this, so we're going to use a temporary. Now, this tells me that my Kindle Mobi file, which is the type of file that Kindle uses, is located at blah, 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 in a folder called Kindle Files Converted Content OPF. You may have multiple revisions here. Use the latest. Now, if you run this same ebook wizard 5 or 6 times, you're going to have 5 or 6 different flavors of those Mobi files. They may all be the same, I don't know. But if you've made some revisions, okay, you will have each of the revisions there. Now, this tells you to visit kdp.amazon.com to upload your... Okay, here is Kindle Previewer. Now, we can open a book, but because we've run Kindle Previewer in the background, it'll be here in our recent files. So we're going to do that. We're going to open it, and it's going to compile, and it's done. Now it'll take a while in opening the book. All right. So here's what Kindle Preview looks like. So if you go and click on these arrows here, you can go through the various things, the copyright page, the table of contents, the first chapter, etc. Over here you'll find the table of contents, so it comes back to that. Now if you want to see what it's going to look like on an 8.9, that's it. HDX, that's it. Fire, that's it. Let's get down to a more reasonable thing. Okay. Now we go to Kindle e-ink, the older ones, and that's what it's going to look like. So you can go through your book and see if everything looks okay. If you see something that looks funny, well, you got to go fix it. And usually the fixing means fixing it back in the original manuscript and then redoing your conversion. Okay, that's it for Kindle. The ebook conversions for Nook and Smashwords are very similar. Again, it's important that you read the help. This is the end of the tutorial on ebook. For our print-on-demand demonstration, we're going to use a nonfiction manuscript. This is the sample manuscript included in your package. Note that the title page, this has a bunch of front matter, endorsements, acknowledgments, illustrations, tables, preface, and so on. It has a table of contents. It has a few chapters. Has headings. It has images. Now these images are pictures. This image is a picture. It is not, I repeat, it is not a Excel insertion of a chart. It's a picture of a chart. In print-on-demand and ebook, you must use images only. Do not insert links to Excel charts or anything like that. What we're going to do is we're going to click on Menu, Authors, Conversion Wizard, POD Conversions. Now, it tells us that the POD Wizard will convert your nonfiction or novel manuscript to be compliant with the requirements of Lulu or Amazon's CreateSpace. This will only do the interior. It does not do cover art. You have to go to Amazon to build your own cover, or go to an internet supplier and purchase one. And you should get a nice cover, because that's the first thing that people see. We're doing a trial run. That's because we have a properly formatted manuscript. If you're trying to do this on something that you wrote prior to purchasing the Wizard product, well, that's not going to work. So don't bother. All right, we're going to do CreateSpace. That's Amazon's print-on-demand outfit. Okay, now this says it's going to delete. You should have a clean manuscript at this point, but we're going to try to do some minor cleanup if you've got some minor little issues that people usually have. We're going to set the spacing to 2. We're going to change all consecutive spaces to 1 after punctuations. Okay. Now here is where we get to select different things. Okay. Drop cap is a common thing that's done in printed books. If you want the first letter of your chapter to use a drop cap, check it. Here you can change the font. We have some default fonts here, 11, that work fairly well with manuscripts being converted to book format. But if you want to use different fonts, be my guest. However, make sure when you look at the final document that it's readable. Font that isn't readable will not sell any books. Now, we can include the front matter, so let's do that. Automatic hyphenation, I think you should check that, and you should change straight quotes to curly quotes. That will not always look good in certain fonts. You have to look at it make sure it looks okay. Some fonts have nice looking quotes and some don't. All right, now it tells you be patient while it does the conversion. If you have a pretty long manuscript, go have coffee in a toilet. Now here you get to pick the book size. We're going to pick the U.S. Trade 6 by 9 inch. So your final manuscript will be in 6 by 9 inch piece of paper. You can pick any of these sizes. Now here's the title and copyright page set up. We've got this all pre-prepared. Pen name, publishing company. If you have a publishing company, put that in. This is the header that will be on your book. So in your book, it'll have chapter number on one page, and on the opposing page, it'll show this header. So put what you want on there. It should reflect what your title is. If you have an ISBN, you can enter it. Amazon will assign one. So if you're going with Amazon, I wouldn't put anything here. This is the standard copyright. So we're going to copyright this and copyright it in the author's name. If you have something else that needs to be put here, enter it. Okay, and you're going to put whatever your publishing company is, the street and the town. And that goes on the title and copyright page. Remember to read the help for the information that's more detailed than this. You can change the font in any of these to something you like. It'll take a while to run this, and when it's done, it will tell you this. So that's a modified document. Now, it'll tell you all the good stuff about your document, but what we're going to do is we're going to click here and we're going to open the PDF file. Now, when we open the PDF file, we're doing it with the Adobe Acrobat Reader. Here is our nonfiction sample document. First thing you want to do in this, and this is the Adobe Acrobat Reader DC. There should be a similar one on your computer. So we'll go to View, we'll go to Page Display, and we're going to go to two-page scrolling, and we're going to go to Show Gaps Between Pages and Show Cover Page in the two-page view. So this allows us to look at the manuscript as it would be printed. So if we start scrolling, you can see the cover page is over here and the copyright's there. And here's some of the front matter. Now the front matter is always supposed to begin recto, that is on the right page. So that's why you see it. You'll see a blank page on the left side. Then you get your table of contents. Chapter 2. Chapter 3. And so on. And that's pretty much ends POD Wizard.